I'm watching this game yesterday between the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys, as I'm sure you probably were as well.
Yes, I saw.
And first of all, I was appalled at how we talked about it last week. We were like, look, if the Giants move the ball and score a lot against Dallas, that means their defense is absolutely horrific. And their defense is absolutely horrific. I mean, the Giants, what they put on them, 35 or whatever it was?
34.
I mean, unbelievable that their defense was so bad. But I'm watching the game, and so Dak rolls out. He's scrambling. And I'm watching the play, Rob, and I'm thinking he's running kind of like a running back on this play. You know, like he could have slid earlier, but he really was running physical. And he wasn't avoiding the contact. And sure enough, he runs and gets tackled. He doesn't slide.
But he didn't slide, right?
He was running like, like a physical player. And he's done that before. I mean, that's been one of his strengths. And he's been an Iron Man, obviously, hasn't gotten hurt before. But obviously this time it just was a terrible ending. Did you see it? And I saw him sitting on the ground, and he looked like, I don't know if he was in shock because he wasn't really emotional. He was just like sitting there. And then you saw his foot, which was just totally going the opposite way of where it should have been going.
It was ugly.
And the broadcasters didn't pick it up immediately, right? Because they were like, oh, Dak's down. And I saw the foot before they said something, and it was like, oh, my gosh. And obviously, remember the Gordon Hayward injury against Cleveland first? Remember how his foot was like going the opposite way? That's what it was. That's what it was.
And I was watching for historical purposes, Chris. I don't know how it were because it was in college. And I watched the Joe Theismann when his leg got snapped watching Monday Night Football. I was watching the game. And I remember that.
Too. Yep.
Were you watching it? Yeah.
Yep.
But back then, we only had 6 channels. We watched everything.
Right. It was everybody watched the one game. But no, you're right. It was that. It was Alex Smith, where you just knew right away. And look, he had surgery last night. And doctors always say this, of course, but they're saying it was a successful surgery.
Right.
And they expect him to be back 4 to 6 weeks. Now, they did say they think
4 to 6
at this point,
months.
46 months. I'm sorry, 46 months. They expect that they avoided the infection because obviously the bone went through the skin. Not to get too graphic, but that obviously opens up the chances for infection. And so he said, they said that they think they avoided all that. So it looks, at least at this point, it's very early, obviously. But it seems like he should be able to make a full recovery. Obviously, we all hope that.
Let me say this, Chris. Today in my class, we talked about this. I teach at USC for people who don't know. And it's introduction to the sports media. And one of my students thought that they showed it too much, and some of the other kids pushed back. I don't think they overdid it, but it's a big deal, and everybody's not watching it live. So I didn't have an issue. Did you think that there was overkill? He thought it was that they. I don't think they replayed it.
I don't think they replayed it too much. I thought they showed it when it was happening,
and then they gave you a couple other angles, and that was it. Like we don't.
And I gotta be honest, I didn't look at it once I saw it straight on.
You saw it live,
yeah, and then I didn't watch any of the replays
because
I just didn't want to see it again. Did you?
I didn't. I haven't watched it since that. The initial time seeing it. I don't need to keep going back or going on Instagram or YouTube. I'm good on that. But one of my students took issue, and I just said, there were a lot of people who weren't watching, and so when they flipped over, right, you hear about it on Twitter. Somebody texts you, Chris, and says, did you see what you call it? Or did you see Dak? So you want to flip to find it, right? And you want to see it.
I've had severely sprained ankles, and I know the immediate pain that you're in, so I can't even imagine that. And that's why it's hard for me to watch. It's just like, oh my gosh, I can't even watch it. But anyway, after surgery, Stephen Jones, the Cowboys GM, he spoke today. Here's what he said. What he said was, he's our future. meaning Dak. He's special. If anyone can overcome anything, it would be Dak. It's something that our doctors feel good that he'll overcome and come back better than ever. Rob, here's how I look at it. And obviously, the financial situation, you and I texted about this
Yes.
right after it happened. It's just unfortunate that Dak didn't sign. Now, he was offered reportedly a 5-year deal worth $34.5 million per.
And there was $100 million guaranteed minimum out of 175.
Yep. Now, he bet on himself, and he said he wanted 4 years. He wanted a shorter deal, obviously, so that he would be able to re-up sooner and get more money. And so he took the $31 million franchise tag. He bet on himself. He risked it. And this is obviously why a lot of people, I was on First Things First today with Brandon Marshall, and he said he and his agent decided early on, when he started his career, they'd never leave, or he said they'd never go into the last year of a deal without a new extension, because then you're out there. And if you get hurt, you could really be in trouble.
You're naked.
And yeah.
You are.
Yep. And it's unfortunate. We talked about this all the time during the contract dispute. And I get, you're betting on yourself and all that. You hadn't been hurt before, but this is a brutal sport, man. And any moment you can go down.
It's the NFL, Chris, and we have said this. You can get hurt on every play. Every play could be a career-ending play. So that's why you got to secure as much guaranteed cheese as you can. And it's unfortunate. I mean, I understand. What are the Cowboys going to say? Oh, no, Andy Dalton, and then we'll draft a quarterback. We'll see what happens. You're not going to say that the day after it happens.
Oh,
He's your guy. You're going to say nothing but positive. If anybody can get back, it'll be him. He's our future. That all sounds good until you see if he can play and what damage is done and how he bounces back. That's going to determine everything. We know that.
Absolutely.
And we
right? I agree. And I think, I don't think they're being disingenuous.
No.
I think they're saying, we're still with Dak. We're going to do everything we can in rehab. I think what'll happen, Rob, there's been a lot of discussion about what will the Cowboys do. Some have said they think that they'll actually offer him a long-term deal next season.
That.
Some have said they even think they owe him. Here's what I think. I don't think they owe him.
They offered him a contract, Chris.
Right.
You said
they offered him. And what I think they'll do, Rob, and I just think this is the smart business move, I think they'll franchise him. I think he'll be on the second year of a franchise deal. Now, he'll make close to $38 million on that, but I think they'll franchise him for the second year and see what he does. See how he plays. I think that's what they'll do.
What did you make of the Tony Dungy comments? Did you see those?
Yeah, I actually thought Tony made sense. He said, for those that didn't see it, that it could be a blessing in disguise. Now, at first I was like, wait.
Blessing in disguise, right.
At first I was like, what? But he explained it. He said, because obviously you have Andy Dalton in it. It sounded initially like he was saying Dalton might be better or whatever. But what he said was, with Dalton as the quarterback, this will force Dallas to go back to what should be their bread and butter, which is running the football. And he said he thinks now they'll give the ball to Ezekiel Elliott more. They'll get back to being a run-first team. And Andy Dalton's obviously a competent quarterback. He's not as good as Dak. Tony said, we know he's not Dak. He's not going to make those plays that Dak would make. But if they can run the football and Dalton can play well as a manager, then they should be fine. And I actually think that makes a lot of sense, Rob.
But
what
does that say about what is he saying about Dak Prescott, though, is that the Cowboys have gotten away from their strength, and that's why they haven't been winning like they had prior with Ezekiel Elliott.
Why they're not.
No, I'm just
the defense is why.
Not just this year, Chris. Last year, he's saying that their strength is running the football, not having Dak throw 45 passes a game. Is that what he's saying?
Look, obviously I like Dak, but I make no bones about Dak is not even Deshaun Watson in my opinion. He's not like a top 5 quarterback. I've said he's en route to being elite. I think he's, as you always mock me, I think he's got the intangibles. I think he's a great leader and the type of guy you want as the face of your franchise. And I think he's got a good physical skills, not an Aaron Rodgers type or anything like that. But I think he's got plenty to win Super Bowls as a leader of a team if you got a lot elsewhere. And so that's how I feel about Dak. But we'll see. I mean, obviously, look, the division is so horrendous. I mean, you got Washington thinking that it can win the division. The Giants are like, hey, we get a couple wins. We played well against Dallas. Maybe, we're not out of it. And Philadelphia actually looked pretty good. They lost to Pittsburgh.
They lost, but
they looked
put
okay.
some points up. They look way better. Way better.
Yeah, so it's open. I mean, I don't write Dallas off. I do still think it's between Dallas and Philadelphia. But to Dak, that's what I think the Cowboys will and should do, Rob. Franchising. What do you think they'll do and should do?
Well, I think they'll have no choice because unless they just totally feel like he can't play or something, but they'll have no choice. I wouldn't give a guy coming off such an injury a long-term deal or something like that. So it would just be we're going to have to pay the franchise tag to get a look at him. And that's all they really can do. And then from there decide who'll have to play to see whether or not he's worthy or not, or how bad the injury was and if he bounced back or not, Chris.
Well, and I think, Rob, and this may be a pipe dream, but I think what would make it difficult is if somehow, as Tony Dungy kind of alluded to, if somehow they play great or, they get back in the hunt, they win the division and maybe win a couple playoff games with Andy Dalton. That's where it would be interesting. And then because look, giving Dak $38 million is going to be huge next year. We've talked in the past about the cap ramifications.
And we don't know where it's going to go given this year with no fans.
Finances,
you know what I mean?
Right.
It's not going to be the balloon that everybody thought it was going to be. I'm not sure of that.
Right. So that's where that would make it interesting. You know what I'm saying? Like if they finish 10-6 and have a nice run in the playoffs under Andy Dalton, then what do they do? I think other than that, I think it's virtually a lock that they'll franchise Dak and, see what he can do next year.